Welcome to Future Strike, everybody. Today we are going to be doing another Cliff Reacts in Real Time episode. All right, well, welcome back. My name is Cliff.
I'm Spencer. Happy Sunday.
And yeah, welcome back to Future Strike. As I just said, I'm going to be reacting to some kind of a level of Spencer's design, and I don't know what it's going to be. So this is real.
That's right.
High wire stuff here.
Yeah. All right. So today, Cliff, presenting to you the farm. So you may remember a couple of weeks ago, we went through Junktown, right?
Yep.
The farm is one of the levels that you might come to after Junktown. So they're kind of adjacent, potentially. There's other ways into the farm, but these two are nearby. So the farm is kind of like similar in that it's sort of, there's a little bit of crumbling and decay, and you can see a little bit of the post-apocalyptic kind of urban environment in the background in some of these places. The idea is you kind of made it out of the pit, potentially, through the Junktown, now coming out into a little bit more green space, right? So here we have kind of the establishing shot on the left, and then, you're sort of moving into some of the buildings, and we have this old kind of barn house kind of corner here, is where the level starts, right? And obviously, fun stuff with knocking people into the side of that house, and some of those awnings are coming down, right? Kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. This is one ramshackle place. That barn house, I love the construction of it.
Yeah. It's supposed to be kind of sort of ramshackly. Then on the default path, so you move on from the barn house, you come to the old shop. So similar kind of thing. The idea is just like an old general store, right? And you're fighting people sort of out front. And then there's also, following that, the North Road. And that's clearly a road. So you're sort of getting on this path going, who knows where, but like to the north, right? And it sort of has more of like a country road kind of vibe. I'll pause there for sort of initial thoughts about the
setting. No, what I like is that this is the first I'm seeing yet that's a little reminiscent of like a Western, which I'm a huge fan of Westerns. I mean, I don't know about you, but I love, Shane and, movies like that, and Unforgiven, and, just the Western genre of film. And seeing that in this world is just a lot of fun.
Good.
And yeah. And this is a different type of Western scene because, of course, we have like the future steampunk kind of stuff lying around. The junk that you might have even seen at Junktown has made its way here for some way or another.
That's right. There's some continuity between those places, right? Where it's like, this is kind of the farm built from the junk, right?
Yeah.
That is also kind of falling apart. So that's sort of the idea.
Yeah. I'm wondering who's here, because it looks kind of deserted.
Yeah. Not that many people are hanging around, or so it seems. So here we'll go to the first boss. So one of the first kind of default bosses you meet is Mujo. So kind of, he's our, young, kind of scruffy but handsome Shoto gas station attendant here. And he kind of thinks of himself as sort of one of the protectors of the farm, right? And so, his line is kind of one of these, we ain't got no place for folks like you around here. You need to keep moving, right? So, the idea is kind of inspired by that, grease monkey with a heart of gold kind of, a little bit gruff, right, kind of person, but he's got some, good kicks and some fireballs to throw at you, right? At the gas station.
I love it. And now what about Obi and Runt? They're like old and young.
That's right. Older and younger. So, Runt is the, really young version, and then Obi's like the older version, right? So, not as like all the goons, right? They share the moves, but not meant to be as threatening or heroic.
Yeah. No, I love that. and just always, I am always, you know, so impressed with just the sort of brush strokes of the images. You know, it's just a very cool, you know, visual style that these have.
Cool. All right, shall we move on?
Yeah.
All right. So the other boss on the default path is Xiulan, and I hope that I'm going to say the Chinese names correctly, but obviously comment, tell me how to say it right if you know. So she is a motorcycle warrior poet who is, you know, passing through the town, and you sort of encounter her here on the East Road. You know, she's getting off her bike for, you know, some reason you don't fully understand. Just kind of, you know, I mean, any warrior poet is going to be pretentious.
Of course.
So her line is kind of meant to convey some of this, you know, I mean, she is a skilled warrior, right? She's going to write a poem to honor your loss, rather, after she, you know, beats you up here.
I like how that is both sort of an honorable thing to do, and it's just it's a dig, it's an insult, you know, and it's also pretentious.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah,
but you know, she's a traveler, right? She's on her journey here, right? And you know, you are worthy of a poem and no more.
I love that. And now Spark and Carrie, they are these like motorcycle goons? Like, are they gonna be riding the bikes and they kind of shoot them at you? You know, like how they kind of, you know what I mean? How some of these goons, they'll kind of jump off the bike and like throw them at you, kind of thing, in motion.
You know what? I like that. I hadn't thought about that. That's a good idea, I think. At the very least, they're riding in on a bike and they're going to like jump off. Now, whether or not you have to dodge the bike, maybe you do. Maybe you should. That could be fun.
Or another like move they could do is like they're riding through and they sort of do that slide. They like go on the side and like
power slide.
You got to jump over it or do some kind of move to get them, you know, out of your way.
I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
So Spark is meant to be kind of like motorcycle kind of rider. Her helmet is a little bit supposed to be kind of like, I don't know, it almost looks kind of like World War I to me, you know what I mean? Or like or World Wars, like she's like riding in the sidecar of the Now Carrie, though, I wanted to dial it up actually in the direction of like a cyclist. Right? She has like a bike helmet on, you know. So I thought that could be kind of fun, right? It's like some of them are on motorbikes, but she's just on a bike.
And she even has a wheel. Is that a wheel behind her?
So in the prompt or whatever, it kind of articulated that curve down there as a bike wheel. And obviously if this were going to production, we got to clean all that up. But actually, because it's kind of consistent with the idea of the character, right? I was like, that's fine, right? You know,
No, I love this. I love the idea of all the stuff everywhere that you could potentially interact with, maybe, or is just there for cool factor. You know, it's a very rich environment.
Yeah. No, thanks. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, one of the other ways actually that I don't know if it's just Stable Diffusion or if it's like kind of the prompts that I put in, you get back lots of like busted looking cars and things like this, which on the one hand, the fact that there's like busted looking cars in all of these different places helps to kind of like unify the world a little bit. On the other hand, you also think about how the busted car is like such a trope of the beat 'em up in the fighting game. Right. It's like there's always these like you're like in Street Fighter, you were literally like had the bonus round where you're smashing the car, right? And you just think you totally embrace all of that, right? Like, oh, there's all these busted cars that you can blow up in the stages, right? You're jumping on them, you're jumping over them, you know, all this fun stuff.
They're darting out from like, you know, there's always that you're walking down, there's always a guy kind of, that's a Ninja Turtles thing, right? Like the guy.
They did it in Streets of Rage, right? It's like as well, right? It's like you got to dodge the cars and stuff. So anyways, you can have fun with that. So that's the idea.
Love it.
Cool. All right. The third boss on the default road, this is like the kind of like quick path, is Walker. Now, Walker is an interesting character because I don't think we've talked about any of these characters yet. So, I mean, he's meant to be obviously kind of like a scary cowboy type guy. But he's inspired by the Man in Black from Westworld, right? So that's to say, like, sinister, like, you know, definitely not somebody to mess with, but also somebody who, you know, he recognizes that this is just a video game that he's participating in to some extent, right? And so he sees you as kind of like totally he has no mercy and doesn't sort of respect you at all, right? Whoever you are, right? It's just like, oh, you're just a coin, that he's here to collect, right? You're just another, person for him to beat on his journey to get a high score. Like, you don't matter any more than that, So he's sort of cruel and dark in that way, and actually expresses that in game, right? But yeah, so he's waiting for you here at the homestead, right? He's kind of like hanging out, on his property or whatever, with his, I imagine him kind of like sitting there with his like boots up or whatever, and then you sort of arrive, and he just like gets up and is like, well, here's another person for me to kill, basically.
He flicks his cigarette or whatever. And no, I like the I always like that idea of I mean, it's pretty frightening, actually. A guy who and now he may or may not be right that he's in a video game.
Like, I mean, he is right?
I mean,
we know
is
that he's right. Yeah.
We know that he's right, but as far as your journey encountering him, he's just a crazy guy who has very little regard for human life or life. And, so someone who believes that he's in a simulation, right, whether or not you're in a simulation, you do not want to be defeated, because that's, whether you're in a simulation or not, you're game over,
Yeah, that's right. And there can be interesting encounters later. I mean, we have to think about how we want to spell it out with other characters that also, because there are some other characters that, like Walker, also, know that it's a video game, right? And they, some of them regard it, differently, basically, right? Where it's like, so there's a character, Niobe, later on, who we'll meet, who's like inspired by, the characters in the Matrix, right? She thinks of herself as trying to free people, right? To kind of wake them up to the reality such that in a way they can become, they can transcend, right? But there are other characters too, who actually have some awareness of it, of this, meta narrative, right? This idea that this is all taking place in a game world, but they actually kind of see it, interpret it almost in like a religious way, right? Where it's sort of like, oh, this is like our, this is just the way that the universe is, and we all have our duties and, our roles to play, even though we may play them millions of times, like over and over and over again. Like, this is just the way, right? So you sort of have these interesting different interpretations of the sort of, meta narrative, right? But it's fun then when those characters meet, right? There's a, friction between their understanding, right?
Right. No, this is a great, and the landscape here, I love that he's hanging out at this it's a very beautiful section here, actually. It's green, it's not as frightening, it's not as decrepit, has some grass and things like that, but he's also pretty certain that this is not real. So I like that juxtaposition too.
Yeah.
And what kind of a character do you see him being? Is he like a mix-up guy? Is he a rush-down guy? What would he... I almost see him as being like Z. Is that his name?
Oh, yeah. G.
Yeah,
exactly. That's how I see him kind of moving too.
Yeah. Okay. And then
cool.
Hank, is Hank like a Hank Williams? He's like a country singer, or?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I haven't thought about exactly how I want the characters of all the goons to be here. But yeah, the thought is kind of, I don't know, Rogue is like a, highwayman kind of.
Yeah.
He's got the mask, right? And then, the thought was like Hank, I don't know. Maybe that's right. He's like an old country troubadour or whatever.
Yeah.
You're just going to have to beat up so many of them on your journey.
I could imagine some pretty cool kind of Ennio Morricone like music, kind of inspired on this, like kind of spaghetti Western, guitar stuff, that kind of stuff would be pretty cool.
Yeah. All right.
Sweet.
So we'll move on. Okay. So this is kind of the B paths, or the C and B route, right? So if you're speedy or perfect, you might come to these stages. So there's the meadow. So from the barn house, if you're quick, you can make it to the meadow. And then if you are not perfect out of the meadow, you end up going to the well. Or if you're perfect after you've made it to, I think it's the old shop, you can move up to the well. So anyways, a couple more stages, but the idea is that you have this kind of nice green space, and you'd be kind of like along the dirt path, right? But you have the crops behind and kind of the the scene behind you for the meadow. And then for the well, yeah, my thought is that there's kind of this nice sort of watering hole, right? So it's a little bit of a kind of an idyllic spot. And that, yeah, I think, I don't know, maybe you're out front. Maybe I want some, I don't know, people sitting there. Maybe I want it quiet. I don't know, but I sort of liked the kind of peaceful setting.
And then having some battlers working their way through it. That's always fun, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess again, it's like that kind of like juxtaposition of, or contrast or whatever between the places.
Yeah, no, these are really, I mean, again, just the colors are great. The yellow, the green, you know, and then like, and off in the distance, we have the skyscrapers and those kind of towers and smoke and things like that. It's pretty cool.
Good. Yeah, I like that about how the images came out, is that they all have the kind of, yeah, again, it's like a farm, but kind of on the edge of,
yeah,
you know, civilization, right? You know, you're close.
And it is the type of thing where it's like, this is quite idyllic, but there could be some not so good stuff going on there, you know?
That's right. Maybe there are monsters coming out of this little watering pond.
And now is that building there in the left side photo, the meadow, is that like the chickens live there, or is that just, we don't quite know?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe.
Okay. I think the chickens.
No way to go off the path to that house, so we'll never know, but we can fill it in, you know?
That's right. I like that.
Cool. Okay, so
Ooh.
the B route off of that. So one of the places, basically, if you go from the well, one of the places you can end up is at the silo. And here's the ideas, and this was actually kind of a, you know, fluke out of the image generator, but I thought this was like so surreal and cool. It's like this crazy looking, like futuristic, like building. I thought, oh, that'd be awesome if like at one end of the farm, there's like this super, you know, high tech, like silo there where there's like harvesting the crops or whatever and like moving them in. And it's like totally surreal. Right. And in a way, I mean, again, because we don't have to worry about it too much in terms of geography, I sort of like the idea that it's like, you aren't even kind of aware that this is there until all of a sudden it's like you turn in just the right direction or whatever, and now you sort of see it.
Yeah, it's very spooky.
Yeah. And that's where you encounter Jamie. And so Jamie is our, you know, handsome, muscular, kind of, you know, super big, like farm worker. And he's got his big kind of like harvesting tool and his, you know, heavy overalls and his like awesome purple hair going.
Yeah.
And he's, you know, just going to tear you up.
You're disturbing the plants. Yeah.
But yeah. What are you going to say?
Oh, no, I was going to say that that little kind of little red image, little blobs there on the image of Jamie. It's like, is that blood? Like, what is that? I don't know.
That's just paint splatter.
I know, but he's a fighter, so it could be blood.
It could be.
I'm going to choose to think it's blood.
Okay.
He's great. So he's a different he's undergone some changes, I think, right? He's his like he's more graphic novel. His style of his art is a little bit different than whenever I've seen him before, I feel.
Yeah, so earlier versions of it looked more like Ox, really. Yeah. Like in terms of kind of like the shape even. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you know, then earlier versions than that, right, were much more kind of cartoonish, right? Yeah. Or less detailed. And so as I've been kind of iterating on it and trying out different models and things like that I'm using, it sort of came up with a few different, I don't know, looks, right? But it definitely has tried to resolve the kind of face more clearly in the newer versions. Yeah. But this guy that I went with here, I mean, really was the hair. Like, I don't know, there's some version of the hair and the way that he's kind of like looking down, you know, that I just thought like, oh man, who's this guy? And whenever I have that reaction, it's like, I save those. And then I started to kind of, you know, center my ideas around, you know, him looking a little bit more, I don't know, fresh and dope.
Yeah, he does look fresh and dope.
Yeah.
Love that guy. No, he's one of the memorable characters for me. I mean, the
Yeah. I mean, he's based on you, right? Obviously.
Yeah. What can I say? I mean, my hair is getting there. So,
I mean, the hair has moved away from the cliff, but I feel like the early versions, it was kind of more like,
more
curly
fro-ish.
fro, like I know you can grow,
I can. Yeah. No, this guy's great. I mean, awesome design.
Cool. And anyways, try to preserve some of the old version in Ox.
Yeah.
I know now he's kind of been demoted to a goon, but that's okay. And then Dustin, I was like trying to sort of, I don't know, I'm not 100% happy with Dustin actually, but kind of communicated an idea that I liked, is that like you can sort of have, a little bit of a simpler version of Jamie in Ox, right? Like he's he's less flashy. And then there's also this kind of like,
cybernetic
cyborg like kind of version, right? But these are both kind of, they're out there working on the farm, right? There's kind of like the, rusted broke cyborg that's doing some of the work. And you got the like muscular, dude doing some of the work. And then we got, our hero who's, upset that you're out here disturbing the plants. This is what he
does. I like that silo.
But I thought that'd be really cool if you imagine like fighting in the field with this like crazy surreal building, and then maybe like the trucks kind of are working behind you, they're moving a little bit, and it's just kind of this serene setting with this like almost like disturbing structure there, right?
Yeah. And it's definitely of a place, because this is it's been designed by some of the same people who designed the airship.
That's right. Yeah. It's that same kind of technology, right, that you see here, right? Even in the places that are kind of old, right, and falling apart, there's still these like artifacts of the, advanced tech. Yeah. Love it. Cool. All right. So other path off the well is to the garden shrine, and that's where Ejiro is waiting. And she is like kind of a shaman priestess here who, wow, is a part of or in touch with the kind of magical forces that maintain the growth in this area, right? The vegetation. Anyways, and she is like serving, the goddesses of the earth here at this shrine. And so when you arrive, this is good timing because it's, goddess needs a sacrifice. And that's basically what she's saying to you. I absolutely love how this is this gorgeous image. And, she's this serene person, but what she's saying is, I need to sacrifice you and kill you to keep this going. It's pretty scary. So, and she has the 2 different colored eyes. So this is true. It's a thing. It's a thing with we'll see if that hangs around, but that could be part of the style. Yeah. In Future Strike, the heroes are all heterochromes. Yeah. No, this is awesome. Again, this could be, I absolutely love Miyazaki stuff, and that, the Studio Ghibli stuff. So anything that's reminiscent of that to me is an A+. Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like I don't know. Some of Miyazaki stuff must be in the models, but like I don't name him or anything like that in the prompts, and like it wasn't something, but it's true. Maybe it's one of the other artists that I do have in the prompts, or something else about the models, that the way that it does the kind of green, especially like green spaces, has that look. It's true. This sort of resembles his palettes, right? And kind of the way that he does it. And also the kind of the brush stroke of it, the where it's not realistic, it's abstracted, but it's just impressionistic. It's impressionistic. Thank you. Yeah. I want this on a t-shirt. The shrine? Yeah, or like a poster, or maybe like a mug, or a lighter. I don't smoke, but a lighter, or just, I don't know, a hat, something. I don't really wear hats either, but it's just a great picture. It's fun. Well, we're going to make all of our swag someday. That's right. Subscribe to our Patreon, which we haven't made yet. Yeah. And you'll get stuff. No, and so then what's going on kind of in the action of this scene, and as we're fighting Ejiro? Yeah, I guess I see this one as kind of really just like I don't see there being a lot of people. Like when you arrive, maybe she's kind of like
She's
kneeling at the shrine.
meditating. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, she gets up. So it's sort of quite simple, but I sort of like kind of maintaining just the beauty of the
Yeah.
scene behind is just like, very quiet, very pleasing. And then I think of her two goons is they're sort of like, priestesses, or, she's like a head priestess or whatever, and they're kind of like lower rank, but they're out there on the farm, tending to things like, making sure that, the magic of the earth or whatever is being, appropriately honored, kind of stuff.
I like I like too that we're covering we have so many different types of people keeping this property going. We have the physical workers with Jamie. We have the guy, he's really tending the vegetation, the plants. She's attending to it in a more spiritual way and feeding the earth with blood.
That's right.
And I like that. And then you have Walker, who's just walking the property and killing people because he knows that they're just a coin in his pocket, type of thing. So I like that this whole area is just populated by very interesting cast. So it's great.
Good. Are you ready for the last one?
I am.
Okay. So last one is Glinda. So she is, another shaman here. Her magic leans more towards the witchcraft, and she's kind of on the outskirts when, the woods start to get a little bit more wild. And so, she has her hut there. And really, she thinks of kind of these lands as hers, right? And so, when you encounter her, she, in her sweet grandma voice or whatever is like, hey, you're trespassing here. And so now she's gonna, turn you into some animal for sure.
No, it's great. Again, it's perfectly just this little hut. It's the type of thing you wouldn't see it until you don't know what's there. Then you go around a little corner, you go through a grove or a glade or whatever. And
so the meadow. So basically the path to Glinda is you're at the barn house, you go to the meadow, and then it's like on the outskirts of the meadow, you got the woods, right? And that's where her little hut is.
Yep,
and
exactly.
There, you've made a terrible mistake, right?
Yep, and she's clearly scary.
I think of her now. I'm part of this was I was telling you earlier, and we'll do an episode on this stuff later. It's because I've been looking into like martial arts of the world and starting to like assign them to the different characters. And I was thinking there are some cool ones that involve like the use of like kind of long like staves, like or long like bows or whatever, like long sticks. And so I started to think like maybe that would be cool with Glinda. It's like we see in her right hand she's got a magic spell going, but maybe in her left hand she's got a big pole there, and she's coming for you with it. So she's maybe uses kind of like a stick fighting technique, with some good pokes, and she's got some twirls,
Yeah. No, she's great. This is
Marge and Mel are like her students, right? And they have their hoods and whatnot, and they're kind of goofier caps because they're lower rank. But they're also out kind of like walking the grounds, right?
Yeah. This is great. I mean, it's almost like Hocus Pocus, but scarier. Love it. I think the farm is my favorite land yet.
You like it?
Yeah.
They all are. And we got the goons.
Yep. All right. So I guess we can wrap up, everybody. So that was another episode of Cliff Reacts in Real Time. That was the farm. Killer stuff. Yeah, so until the next one, everybody, please subscribe, like, comment. We'll catch you on the flip side.